Brewtally Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. For over 30 years, Rockabilia has been the go-to destination for all things band merch. With over 500,000 items in their online store and collaborations with today's hottest bands, you're sure to find something you love. Use our code BREW10 at checkout and take 10% off your total order. So go pick up your favorite new piece of merch now over at Rockabilia.com. Now, on to the show.
Say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Brewtally Speaking podcast. I am your host, John, and this episode's guest is Jack Murray, vocalist for 156 Silence. Their latest album, People Watching, is out now via Sharptone Records. It has been out now for about 2 months. If you have not heard it, I don't know what rock you are living under, but you need to stop playing yourself. You need to go listen to this album. People Watching is one of those records right now that I think... I kind of feel like I'm saying this a lot with some of these newer bands, quote unquote, like with Gore last week and so forth. But I feel like there's a lot of up and coming newer bands, however you want to put it, that are just really blending a lot of genres and styles and so forth. And as a 40-year-old man who's been listening to a lot of music for my whole life, this is a thing where I feel like it's exciting right now. Like there's a lot of bands that are kind of merging a lot of different styles where it feels fresh, it feels innovative, but it also has a tinge of familiarity to it for me. And to me, that's always kind of where the cool things happen, where, a lot of people say, and we talk about borrowing and being influenced by a lot of other artists and so forth. But I think there kind of becomes this thing where when you know authentically who you are, that the things that you create, the way you go about what you do, comes across as such. And I think when you listen to People Watching, I think that comes across, that everybody in that band is operating authentically at their truest self and making music that it just comes from them naturally. And it gets interesting to me to see such a band hitting this creative stride, because while I'm excited about People Watching as an album and the music contained within it, I'm also very excited to go, okay, now what are you going to do? And I think it's sort of become the hard part of how the music industry is kind of doing these long rollouts and bands just dropping singles and so forth kind of sporadically, is it gives us a little bit of that immediacy of okay, I want something else. I want something new. What are you going to do? You're keeping me on my toes. I want to know. But it's also kind of nice to kind of have that feeling of oh, I can't wait for this next record. I can't wait to hear the songs on People Watching live. There's just something about it. And maybe it's just having gone to a handful of shows recently, specifically Knocked Loose and Black Dahlia, where it's Knocked Loose, it seems like everything that the band's doing, everyone knows it. Everyone's pumped for the new songs. The old songs still hit and go off. And even some of the old songs aren't really that old. But to see the reaction they're getting classics, it's almost to me, sitting there listening to some of the older Knocked Loose stuff, off of, laugh tracks and stuff like that, it feels like some of those songs now are Korn's Blind. And it's just the hit. You know it's going to come. It hits every single time. It doesn't matter how many times you hear the song, live or not. It still gets the same reaction all these years later. And it's crazy to see that, because I feel like it's an interesting place to be when you go see some of these newer bands that are kind of taking over. And a band like 156 Silence is just, I think they're poised to kind of be that next band that breaks out from kind of the more aggressive underground, whatever, playing with bands like Of Sulfur and things like that. I could see, very much like I was talking about last week with Gore, I think that this band is poised to kind of be the really great band on every package tour, either the heaviest band on the tour or the band that offers something different on a fully aggressive tour where it's we're going to dip more into melody and stuff like that. To me, those are the kind of bands that always I'm intrigued and excited to see where they go from here. Because I think they're going to be a gateway band for so many people in one way, shape, or form. So that was why I was very excited to get to talk with Jack. And conveniently for me, they were touring with the Up Sulphur dudes and stopped in Detroit at the Sanctuary. I unfortunately was not able to make the show, but this is a fun chat anyway. So without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Jack, and I'll talk to you on the other side of it. So I actually just got done talking with Chae. I gave him a ring real quick because I was going to have him play a joke on you and just take over for me. So when you logged in, you just saw Chae waiting for you. Because I thought that would be very amusing for you because you obviously don't know that I know him. And so if you just logged in and saw Chae waiting to talk to you, you'd probably be like, wait, what the fuck?
Wait, Chae from Up Sulphur?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah, I'd be like, wait, Chae, what?
I will eventually do that. I just always think that would be a really funny thing to like do that to someone that's on a tour with somebody else and be like, wait, why the fuck are you here? You're literally in the venue or like 100 feet away from me.
Yeah, like you had Chae and Dave from Signs of the Swarm on. I'd be like, wait, what's going on?
Well, it sounds like they're actually at the taco spot I was going to recold. I actually told Chae to tell all you guys.
Yeah,
I went. It's really fucking good. Surprisingly, the first time I went was where you guys are playing tonight, the Sanctuary in Detroit. Actually, technically Hamtramck, but where you guys are playing, my wife and I went to go see 18 Visions, and I got a little half in the bag, and then we stumbled across this place that was open, and it looked like a tiny dive diner. And then you walk in, and it serves Mexican food on like a flat top grill, and you're like, what the fuck? And I remember looking for the next time we went with a friend of ours that works security down here, and actually technically up in Detroit as well. But they had, I guess, bought the place behind them. And so it's just all new and looks really nice. So I was like, I don't think this is it because it looked like a shitty diner before. Now it looks all nice and new. And then realized it was the exact same place. So they're open after the shows are done. So I would highly recommend going there and getting something when you're done with the show tonight.
As soon as I'm done playing, I'm going over there.
There you go. Kind of a little bit more to the point of, coming on to not discuss food places when you're on tour. Although I think that is a fun thing to do when you are a traveler like my wife and I are, of like, where do you go and eat and what are places to check out? But I don't think people would enjoy that podcast as much. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I should look into that. Something that kind of stood out a little bit about this new record, since I've had it for a couple of days now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was kind of surprised to see there be features on this one, because I don't think you have done a feature in the tenure of the band at this point.
We've had features.
Are they just not listed and I just don't recognize them as being features then? Okay.
They're just not listed. That's all, and that's our fault.
Okay.
We really fucked up on that. But we've had on Irrational Pool, Andrew from I Am is on that. We have Matt McDougall from Boundaries on that album. We have Black Sheep Wall on the EP. I don't think there's any on Narrative, actually.
Well, it was a thing, like when I was going back through that, I was like, this must be one of those instances where I just assumed someone else in the band or something was on, like someone was on it and just not credited, like that they're already on the song technically, so they don't need their own feature or credit. So I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, I guess they just have enough diversity of range of vocals and voices in their band to like pull off all these other things. So that's totally my fault then of not realizing it, where the credit is due.
No, it's not your fault. It's our fault for not fucking putting their names on the titles.
Well, I was going to say, what gets interesting about that now, though, is, I feel like the last year or so, they've changed how the feature is done though. Like I remember having a chat with Andrew from Ghost Inside, and I was like, are you all on this like Point North song, or like when did this become the thing of adding the full band name to a feature? And he was like, oh, it's just easier for DSPs, like it'll show up like the band versus Vigil or something. And I was like, oh, that's so much smarter than I really would have figured that was why the change. But just gets interesting when you kind of see how that works.
Shit.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to do things now. But I kind of wanted to talk because again, you're in Detroit and it's a local native to Michigan. But how did the feature with Craig end up coming about?
We got that feature because we toured with him. Honestly, he's just an awesome dude and liked our band and was all about doing a feature for us. And he's surprisingly the first person I wrote a feature for that the person intended to do the feature actually did it. We usually if I ask somebody they don't want to, if something comes up or blah blah blah, and we get somebody else or we'll just put in somebody where we think a feature would be. But I wrote his part for him to do, and he did it, and it was sweet. It worked out perfectly.
I always think it's interesting for the vocalist or lyricist because sometimes they're not one and the same. Of how a part is ready for a specific person, like when you hear it, and then how hard is it to be like, I really want to ask, but what if they say no? Like, I feel like it's like asking a girl out.
Yeah, dude, you have no idea how hard it is to ask somebody to do a fucking. Usually Ryan's the one that has to ask them, but Craig, we knew Craig would do it, one because of Sharp Tone, his ties with Sal, but also our manager Griffin was close with them, and so we just floated the idea to him, and he was all about doing it. So, and I think it's one of the best features on the album. All the features on the album are good. I can't complain about any of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what gets kind of interesting about the features to me, and I would say for my perspective of kind of looking a little bit beyond just, the band and so forth is, the album as a whole, I think, has really kind of showcased you guys taking some, I hate to say it like this, some bigger chances, some bigger risks, which showcases a better penchant for songwriting, in my opinion. Because I think a lot of times when you hear people say like, oh, you guys took risks, it means like, I always feel like it's kind of like a backhanded compliment. Whereas I say it, I usually tend to mean like, you're really showcasing the strength of songwriting now that I think you have grown into over 9+ years at this point of being a band. So, the idea of, what is it? Carson from Callous Dowboys, somebody on, I think, Change Agent or whatever.
Mouth
Chae,
War.
I think.
Yeah, Chae.
Yeah.
War.
But I mean, even in the people you have guesting on your album, I think kind of showcase a wide array of sounds, genres, influences, and so forth, that it feels like a really great record to kind of spread a little bit further.
Diverse,
even
for
in
sure.
that.
We didn't want to have the same kind of feature for sure. Like we want this album to be, it's us, but it's not repetitive and it's not predictable. It's just like it's us.
How are you? I mean, we're about a week away from the record coming out. How long have you guys been sitting on this record in its completed form?
It's been completed for over a year now. We recorded it in the studio in February of 2023. No, 4. Yeah, 2024. Sorry.
Okay.
My bad.
Very good.
But yeah, we've had that one for over a year now, written, demoed out, but went to the studio in February to do it. And now we have a full EP as well as another album on top of People Watching that's in the chamber, ready to demo out.
Because that's what I was going to say is I always feel like what gets interesting sometimes about when I get these records, in some instances, I get them a month, 2 months, 3 months before a record's coming out, kind of when the first single is. Some instances, it's like this one where I got it like a week or two ago and it's, right before it drops. But it's like, I like talking about how long you've had a record for you versus it getting ready to come out, because you might be done and over these songs at this point and you're like, man,
oh yeah,
how you feel about the new shit is how I feel about what we're writing right now that you're not going to hear for another year and a half. So it's always interesting to just kind of talk about this this duality of like, you're excited about the thing you're creating now. Everyone else is just getting ready to catch up to what you already created.
Yeah, that's very frustrating. Like, because people are like, "Oh my god, I love the way that people watching sounds," and I'm like, just fucking wait till you hear the shit I'm writing now. Like, it's more enhanced. It's just enhanced. Like, it's not different. It's not. I don't want to say it's anything more than enhanced. Just more focused on different aspects of people watching.
I mean, it seems like based on the output of the band, like you guys are ones that hit the road hard and also are constantly writing, recording at all times. Do you feel that allows you to kind of make what I would say is sort of incremental steps into expanding what you guys do, because it's not so far removed from like what you have been doing, like timeline wise, of like maybe something on people watching inspired whatever you guys have already written now, but just taking it a step further? Is that allow you to kind of still feel creatively satisfied without having to rest on what you're doing?
Yes and no. It's hard to answer that, I guess.
I guess the way I look at it, and it was kind of a shitty way to ask the question, but I was going to say, I feel like when you have such a large gap between records and stuff, and if you aren't
we
collectively
really don't tour that much. We would like to tour as much as we can, but we practice every Sunday. We are with each other every Sunday in the practice room, demoing shit, whether we're fucking just running through a set or playing a new song or recording like just content for stupid reels on Instagram and stuff. We're constantly together on Sundays. Every Sunday we meet. And I think that's what definitely keeps us on our toes. It keeps us ready to go and not lazy. Like it's a schedule thing.
How long into the process of starting the band, when did that regiment kick in?
It's been ever since I joined the band back in 2018. The band's that had two vocalists before me. But ever since I joined in 2018, we have met every Sunday, and we have not missed a Sunday unless it was, something came up, or we had just gotten off a tour, or we just came back from the studio or something. We meet every Sunday, no matter what.
I feel like that's got to definitely add to a bit of a keeping up with your paces, so to speak, but also I think allows you to kind of, if I had to guess, probably allow you to stay committed and bonded as like friends first and foremost.
Exactly. Yeah, like you don't want to get separated for too long, because then it's like you get isolated and you don't feel like you're part of the group as much as you are just like trying to do your part in the group, whether it be like writing on your own or practicing. Coming together regularly is important for longevity, I feel, because we've been a band for a long time, and we're just now starting to feel some kind of progression and like see some good things coming.
Does that feel like it's been because of the head down, do the work kind of attitude? Do you think that's like preparation meets, or whatever that saying is? Like,
it's a lot of eating shit in this business. It's a lot of, finding your own parking spot, finding your own merch spot. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of eating shit. Sure is. But you just gotta do it. Everybody has to do it. And if you skip that eating shit spot, you're not gonna really understand what it is to actually reap these kind of benefits from starting at such a low. Like, dude, I've played for nobody. I played for empty rooms. Nobody came. Nobody. And now we're filling out, like, we're playing for hundreds of people, and it is a fucking good feeling. It is a slow burn, but it is worth it. You just have to be willing to eat shit if you're going to be in a band, because there is a lot of that.
I always think it's funny when certain bands kind of starts catching on. Like you guys right now, I feel like are kind of at this precipice of like it's starting to boil. It's about to kind of catch. There's a lot of, I think, eyes and ears on you guys right now. And it's kind of funny because it's like, I'm sure to some people, they're going to go see this tour. I think you're second of 4 on the tour, I think, at least as far as the AdMat goes. And I'm sure that there are going to be people who are like, oh, I just saw this new band. And you're like, yeah, 9 years in the making new band. You're just now kind of catching up and hearing about us. So it's always funny when this happens. And as like a
That's another funny thing about people that like don't love the new stuff. It's like, well, where the fuck were you back then, years ago?
Well, I didn't like you then either. That's how it feels at times, honestly. And it's kind of funny to me because I feel like as an older person, getting ready to turn 40 in like a few weeks, that it's like part of like finding you is. Because I found you guys a few years ago on tour with somebody. I don't remember who or someone.
Well, you have to get past our stupid name first. Most people can't get past the dumbass name. They're like, what does that mean? And they don't really give it a listen until they hear our music.
I mean, at the end of the day, like what band name is really fucking great?
Yeah, you're right.
When you really start breaking it down.
Just a name.
Like Foo Fighters. That's a great name. That's an arena. Like if you were just to be like, that who's going to play arenas and stadiums? Foo Fighters. Sure. No fucking way.
Yep. You have a point. Yeah.
But I was going to say, what gets kind of interesting to me is I feel like you are sort of this byproduct of sort of the scene, I guess, and it's kind of changing. But I feel like, you guys, again, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are from like Pittsburgh area, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I feel like when Code Orange kind of started popping off, I feel like that kind of put Pittsburgh sort of in the East Coast a little bit back on the map. And then you started to see, like, when I was kind of growing up in my early to late teens, you saw a lot of pockets of bands, like the LA scene, the OC scene, the Mass scene, whatever. Like you saw these pockets of bands that would all just kind of help each other and then put on for each other. And I feel like that was honestly how I kind of came to know about you guys was, Code Orange, I think, kind of putting you guys when they would talk about when they were starting to break, like, oh, there's bands like this back home. Or, the Acacia Strain and stuff like that. Like, certain bands that understand, like
Absolutely.
the legacy bands that kind of are looking for the younger bands, and then the up and coming bands being like, yo, this is our fucking scene back home. Fuck with them too. And I feel like you guys really are kind of in that realm of like hitting the new era of like how people find out about bands, but also the old way too.
That's why A Strain or Acacia Strain is so fucking sick. Like they're constantly bringing new bands on with them. They're only bringing bands that Vincent likes, that like they like, that they want to see grow. And that's, dude, Vincent is a huge reason why my band got bigger, because like he put us on his liquid metal station back on Sirius fucking XM back during Irrational Pull era. And ever since then, like we went on tour with them couple times now, and it's only been good. Like, and those are hard crowds to please. Like A String crowds, those are tough crowds. Like it's not easy. Like you gotta fucking, those people, they go there for a reason. They're there for fucking Acacia Strain. You know what I mean? Like you gotta impress those motherfuckers. So sorry, were you gonna say something? My bad.
No, I was just gonna say, but I think, and you could probably speak to this from your side of playing with them, I do think that Acacia Strain and some of the more legacy bands like them, their fans have put in the time. They've seen a lot of nostalgia acts, quote unquote, and then they've seen a lot of new stuff. So I think when they see a newer band that's worth a shit, they're gonna fuck with you from that point going forward, because you've kind of
they will or they
made
won't.
It.
They're not there for bullshit. They know what they want. You know what I mean? These crowds like that, and that goes for any band. Like when we toured with Drugs, like that crowd is there for like Chiodos and like Varials, like, and then there was like the Callous Cowboys. That was a very mixed bill. Like the more diverse of a bill I feel does, the better. When you got the same bands playing like the same sound over and over, that's when shit gets drowned out and doesn't stand out, to me at least. I like when there's some diversity on a fucking bill. Like the bill we're on now, these crowds, they are here for metal. They're not here for deathcore, for metalcore, for whatever. They're here because they just love metal. They're here just for metal, and that kicks ass. There's so many different pockets, like you said, of like just gatekeepers and cool guys and shit in metal alone. it's nice and refreshing as fuck when there's just crowds that are here for heavy music in general.
With the new record getting ready to drop, and some of the touring you've done in recent years, where would you like to see yourselves performing? Like, what kind of bands would you like to align with, maybe that you aren't currently?
You know, I don't want to be cliche, but like I would fucking kill to play with the Devil Wears Prada. I'd kill to play with the Bring Me the Horizon, fucking Deftones. Like, these are the bands that I grew up with. I'm from Pittsburgh, close to Monroeville, where the vocalist from Devil Wears Prada is from, and like growing up listening to them, being able to tour with them, that would be a dream come true. Like, I remember listening to Devil Wears Prada when I was like fucking 9 years old, dude.
It gets interesting to hear things like that, because when certain bands were starting to pop off, was like, this is so weird to say because I don't think kids understand nowadays what this really was like living it. But there's like a certain era of my life where I'm like, the internet, I couldn't afford the internet at my house. So tours and shows and shit, I just bypass me. So it's like when some people are like, Devil Wears Prada, and it's like, I remember when they were starting to catch, but it was in that era where I was like, I have no money, I'm broke, living on my own, and I have no internet. So I don't know.
MySpace
that
era.
band kind of passed me. Yeah, that band passed me by kind of to a degree. I should say I don't have the attachment like a lot of people did when it first hit. So it's just one of those where you're like, oh.
I hear you. But like,
what
Deftones, especially being able, if I could open for Deftones, dude, whoo, that's probably my band's favorite band as a collective is Deftones.
I kind of picked up on that. I think one of your guitar players rocks a Stefan 7-string, I think.
Oh yeah, he rocks the Flat Earther for sure.
I think that should be what the signature model, that specific one, should be referenced to moving forward. Holy shit, that's great. And that's potentially why not everyone needs to have social media, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Prime example. Yes. Yeah, just write riffs.
Well, I was gonna say, I don't think you have, at least not Instagram, from what I could tell. I was trying to find something.
I have an Instagram
to kind of like.
Jack from 156.
Do you? Oh my god! I like literally Googled your name and the band name, and nothing came up.
Yeah, we should probably put our profiles on the band page, huh?
I mean, that makes it easier for people like me who are looking for like fun little things to be like, oh, so you were doing this the other day or whatever, and tell me about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just assumed it was because
I'll fix that.
I was gonna say, I just assumed it was because you probably just didn't really have a strong relationship with wanting to be on social media, sort of based on.
I don't post much, but I post memes and fucking daily songs on Instagram and stuff.
Fair
I'm
enough.
a shit poster, doom
sort of
scroller, poisoned by society.
Well, I feel like, because when I was talking with Chae right before we got on, I was like, does he have an Instagram? And I just can't find it. He goes, no, I don't think he has socials. I don't think he likes them. He's not really like, he's kind of to himself.
All right.
Christ. Well, that's awesome. I guess Chae doesn't check his Instagram.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's great.
Yeah, but like I am bad at using social media. I'm not the best for sure by any means. I need to post more for sure if I want, to be successful on social media, but it's just a pain in the ass. I also just
I would almost argue
on social media.
I was just gonna say, I would almost argue, do you need to? Like, do you honestly feel like you need to?
As an artist, yeah, you have to nowadays, but I prefer not to, but yeah, you have to. I think so. Pretty sure. I keep getting told that at least.
I don't know. I would wonder, because I feel like if you, like, in a band setting, I feel like if you didn't want to, in theory, everyone else could kind of pick up the slack for you to where you wouldn't have to. but I don't know if like a label is telling you have to have on TikTok, you got to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't know what that side of shit looks like for you guys.
Of, you know, you see what other bands are doing, and like what's like TikTok, that's like the worst. But you know, bands blow up because of that. Like Lorna Shore blew up because of TikTok. Blew up. Like Sleep Token blew the fuck up. Like that's the shit that like the reels and stuff like that people are what, like that's how you get follows, that's how you get clicks, just like the constant social media bullshit. And it sucks to say, but people have the attention span of a fucking squirrel nowadays. So like constantly you just have to keep floating shit out there at them, be like, hey, remember us, don't forget, hey, there's just so much shit anymore.
Well, I guess I've never really asked this. Is that something because of like, you know, like I'm starting to see the resurgence of the for fans of thing. I feel like in the early 2000s, you saw that on all your CD booklets or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of times I don't feel like it applied necessarily, but whatever. And now, you know, like I'm starting to see it in the press bios that I'm getting for bands to come on the show. And, you know, I think for you, it was like Deftones, Cane Hill, Case of Strain Code Orange, kind of obvious examples. But is that a thing where when you're seeing in some of the songs that you have on the new record, like potentially could break through on like a TikTok thing? Is that a thing where when you're submitting the album, like the label is maybe, or management's kind of like, hey, we would really like to see this, you know, clipped out, and we think this is going to be a big TikTok thing? Like, is that something you guys discuss in meetings, or?
They wanted to do a video for Once I Need, but we couldn't do it because there's a feature on it because of Craig. But we wanted to have him in, and obviously it would have just been too inconvenient to do all of that and like plan all that and stuff. But for most, yeah, the label pretty much picked the singles. We obviously get the overall decision, but like they were like, yeah, we think this is gonna do well. We think you should release this, that at this time, this at this time. Sharp Tones, definitely this album, they've taken more they've guided us better as opposed to like narrative. I feel we might have spent a little too much of our budget on making music videos, but I think that they definitely have a say, and not that we can't be like, no, we don't want to do this, but they have a say for sure.
That's funny. I feel like,
and only to help us. It's not to like control us.
No,
they're just trying to. Yeah, of course.
Well, I think like what kind of was interesting to me, when something that stood out to me, I should say, when getting the advanced copy of the record, and even when the record was announced, was the actual album cover. Like, I feel like gone are the days where people give kind of a shit about the album cover because it's going to be on a DSP about like an inch by an inch. So you're not really paying too much attention to those things. Weirdly, and again, this is probably just my age showing, just looking at the album cover before I even heard a note of anything, I was like, this almost feels like some sort of an extension of like Snapcase's Progression Through Unlearning album cover. Like, it just kind of has that same like early mid 90s, early 2000s kind of look to it. Yeah. How much of your input, band-wise or whatever, went into the album cover itself?
We're huge fans of Aphex Twin.
Okay.
So we wanted it to be kind of along the lines of like his artwork. He makes all his own artwork, but we have our buddy Mikey, he does a bunch of our tattoos. He's a local tattoo artist, and he's the one that painted that. And it's definitely like, it's unsettling. It's for sure. A lot of people either hate it or like it. Like, they're like, I don't want to look at this. This is bothering me. But and that's like the point. It's the point of it. It's like, you either like it or you don't. So, and that's kind of like the theme of this album is like, people aren't going to like our new editions of clean singing and more atmospheric, like soundscapes that we added and choruses and stuff. And some people are going to fucking eat that shit up. It's just the way it is. I think definitely the Aphex Twin was the biggest inspiration for sure on that one.
Now that you say that, I
Aphex Twin.
just imagine. I was gonna say, now that you say that, I just see the window licker video in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking out rules.
I was really big into lately, like the last month or two, Spyro. I think it was what it was. I had it on record and then sold my vinyl collection. So that was like one of the last records I spun before I sold everything.
Hell yeah.
Just sitting back here. Such an interesting artist. Like anything from aggressive to like just ambient and chill. That's insane.
Like that's more people need to listen to Aphex Twin for sure.
It's a whole ass vibe. I'll give it that.
Mm-hmm.
And it really depends on the vibe you're looking for.
Has nothing to do with metal or heavy music, but yeah.
Well, it's funny even in that, because I feel like at times doing the show, I feel like I get a lot of shit. Because a lot of times I'll just wear whatever t-shirts and stuff. But it's like, you know, talking, like I remember having Craig on forever ago when he was still kind of doing more of like the not quite trip hoppy kind of thing he was doing. And I was kind of talking to him and I was like, oh, on this I hear like, and I was mentioning like an R&B person. And he was like, yeah, I really fucking love that person. I was like, oh, okay. And it's funny because like
a lot of artists, he's got a very diverse palette in music listening. He showed me a bunch of different weird shit.
But I feel like that's what allows real artists to kind of tap into other things where it's like, yes, you can listen to Deftones, you can listen to all the different bands that we've talked about already. But to me, it's like when you're able to take Aphex Twin and you say that to me, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I can kind of see where you're getting some of that. And then like even in the album cover, I'm like, oh, I could see like Window Licker video in that. Like
flavors of inspiration we like to sprinkle throughout our shit.
What is an inspiration or a flavor at this point that you really want to fuck with that you've been trying to maybe?
I'd say more so, I don't want to say pop, but just being able to write choruses better that are not only catchy, but profound and meaningful. Because that's such a hard fucking thing. When you're repeating lines to make it meaningful and catchy at the same time, it's so hard. So I'm just trying to work on that.
What are some influences right now that you think are people doing it really well?
You know, like Bring Me the Horizon, their new album kicks ass. That band Mood Ring, that band kicks ass. Heavy bands, but they have that weird, that sexy fucking Deftones-y vibe to them. But not overdoing. I don't want to jack Deftones. I'm not saying that we want to sound like Deftones. We're just taking little inspirations here and there.
I think it would be a lot better if more. I think I saw someone comment on one of your videos. Maybe I think it was Better Written Villain, where they were. Maybe it was Unreasonable Doubt. Someone was like, "Oh, someone's putting singing into really aggressive music, and they're not doing it in like where it's forced." And I was like, out of all of the bands that are kind of starting to do that, I think that's the thing that I really enjoy is that it's almost like R&B vocals are kind of coming into metal, and it's like that's the shit I like when you can like really fucking sing.
It. And that's how you bridge the gap between, you know, casual listeners and like metalheads and people that don't listen to metal at all. That's how you get people into it. It's just a pathway to other music, and that's sick. There's nothing comparable to that. Being able to fucking convince somebody that metal is actually good.
Yeah, I would say that at times it's hard to steer people into some of these genres where you're like, well, I mean, it's like the other day I saw someone on Instagram, this drummer, he was playing like a fucking blast beat, but it was like jazz. Like, so the cymbals and the snare were like jazz style.
Oh, yeah.
With fucking double kick drums. And I was like, said it to like a couple of my buddies who play drums in bands. And I was like, this, and they're like, man, fuck off with this. And I was like, you wouldn't, like, you're telling me that if someone like did some other shit to this, like you wouldn't be like, yo, this shit fucks. And he's like, no. And that's the problem. Cause I didn't think to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the number 12. They'll be ripping some metal and then it's just jazz part, jazz chord.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always crazy to watch kids just go apeshit to like stuff like that. And you're like, I don't even think you would listen to this if it didn't have the breakdown on either side of it.
Yeah, right.
Which is actually kind of the cooler thing to me. Like, I don't know how your brain thought to be like, and jazz part.
Yeah, right. And if it works, it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, and it's like, all right, what are we doing here?
Does it take... I feel like at times when you're kind of expanding your band's own sound, I feel like it's kind of got to be like that meme where it's like, I hate it, but no, I hate it.
Unless.
Right. Yeah. Right. Is there... what is the process like for you all when you're kind of doing something like that? Is it a little bit of like, maybe this, I don't know, hear it out and figure it and try to work the idea out? Or is it just kind of, you guys do fully fleshed out ideas when you come to the practice spot or your Sunday afternoons?
It varies. Sometimes they'll build off of them just like fucking around with like a breakdown. They'll build off of that. But usually Jim writes and fleshes out the whole instrumental and I just write lyrics to it.
Ah, okay. Yeah, it's always interesting to learn how people's songwriting
but there are
goes.
Like, or he'll come up with an idea and they'll build off of that. But usually Jim has like the order of which he has like the vision listed in his head. So he takes control of it that way for sure.
Yeah. How much of this new record are you playing live at this point?
We're playing Better and Villain, Product Placement, as well as Once I Need.
Okay. So basically the singles you're playing at this point.
Yeah, we had Unreasonable Doubt in the set, but we wanted to put at least one song off of Rational Pull and Narrative on there, so we took that one out.
Ah, okay. I always think it's kind of interesting, like nowadays, like how, and especially having a limited time space of opening a show where it's like, okay, we have a new record, we need to push it. It's obviously doing really well and it's kind of capturing a new audience for us. How much of it do we play, especially before it's out, versus appeasing the fans that may know older stuff? So you're at an interesting point where it's like, how do you satiate a set list at this point to try to appease as many people as possible, including yourselves?
Mostly, well, we really want to play the new songs the most. Like we want the crowd to know the songs and the words, but we're tired of playing the old shit. So we want to play the mostly new stuff, but we still like, you got to have the fun parts, the clap parts, the two steps, the breakdowns. Like that's all important as well. So that all goes into, the decision making. And then we need the little interlude to take a little breather and, they tune their guitars and shit in between songs. And that's about it. That's all the thought that goes into it.
This is a really stupid question. And I would be interested to find out moving forward how many people will ask you this question. What is one of your favorite people watching memories?
Like in real life?
Yeah. Like what's something from people watching that, you like when I ask you that question, what is it evoke?
Actually, I think of it on stage. Like when I'm on stage and looking out in the crowd, I think of like, I'm literally people watching and they're looking back at me and I'm looking at them and I see all these different faces. I think of it a lot. I'm like, wow, there are so many different fucking people on this goddamn planet. And it's like, wow. I think of it every time we're on stage. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of people nowadays.
I was going to say, because I was thinking about it from the perspective of when I used to work door at a bar, and essentially I'm kind of the eyes and ears of the bar from the front of it. Yeah. And just watching how people, it was such an interesting thing to watch. Well, I mean, there's that for sure. But then, like, I think a big thing for me was watching younger kids now, like two different takeaways I had, and it's more kind of focused from the bar industry side of things. But one is just a people watching thing. But I'm amazed that younger kids now are able to grab 10 to 12 friends at a time and go somewhere. Like, I never have that many friends ever to go out with me at one specific time, unless it was like someone's birthday 4 months from now and we're all planning it. Like, just the fact that how many people go out together is shocking. But adversely, what gets really crazy is watching everyone just sit in a group of 12 doing this, together, not talking to each other. You know what I mean? No. And it's kind of fucking crazy to see that. But then I think the other thing too is I had this epiphany somewhat recently, and I don't know if I can quite correlate it to shows as well, but it was interesting to watch how people now, the younger generation of drinkers, I don't feel like really drink. I feel like they smoke a lot more. And so it's like you'll see that same 10 to 12 people, but maybe 2 White Claws and 1 or 2 or 3 people are sharing the 1 White Claw and everyone's just smoking like their fucking weed pens or whatever. And you're like, everyone's more chill now than I think that
before.
Yeah. But I think that they're not, I don't think that, they are getting as drunk and more violent. Well, I mean, I did see a lady like sit and piss in the corner booth at our bar.
Never mind.
But I was going to say, I just feel like kids nowadays are less violent and like less prone to fighting than what I saw growing up as a young 20-something at bars. So I think that's something else I've taken away from people watching at a bar.
Hell yeah. Less violence for sure.
Till they go to your shows on the tours that you're on, then all the violence.
Hell yeah. Keep it up. Keep it in the pit.
So I know kind of I alluded to this question before, but I always like asking this question, just given the fact that the record won't be yours anymore in a week. What are you most excited for people to hear off of this record?
I'm excited for them to not hear the same song over and over. All the songs are different. I can confidently say that no song sounds alike, and that is refreshingly true.
I would agree with that sentiment.
Personally, my favorite song, I'm excited for them to hear the song Funeral Arrangements. That's personally one of my favorites.
What about it makes it your favorite off the record?
I wanted it to be a single, personally. I wanted it to have a music video. But like you asked before, there was different decisions to be made, so it didn't become a single, but it's my personal favorite hidden gem on the album, just because it has very catchy choruses, it's had its punching parts, and then the ending guitar part with the singing, it has it all, and it has a very cinematic feeling and vibe to it. That one's my favorite, I feel like.
I was going to say, honestly, I was kind of surprised that it did not end up as a single, considering singles are on either side of it on the track listing, and it seems like a lot of times when albums come out, the singles are kind of all close to one another.
Yeah.
So I fully expected that to be a single when I had gotten the record at that point.
Well, hopefully in the future we can do something like a video for something, maybe an animation video for it. I think that would be sick. Because I don't want to let it go, and I don't want it to go fly under the radar, because that song is probably one of my favorites.
Well, I mean, that definitely seems like in a headlining set kind of scenario, or maybe with a little more time.
It'll be in the set. We'll play it for sure.
Yeah. And then kind of a last question for you. Where can everyone find you, or anything you would like to plug?
156 Silence on Instagram, Jack from 156. We're on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, everything. Sharp Tone Records, the new album comes out September 13th, people watching, and I hope everybody enjoys it. It's been stressful, and I'm very happy with the final product. So I hope.
Oh my God! I just put this together. I mean, I guess I don't have to. Someone should have done especially your dude who did the album cover should do a 156 Friday the 13th flash sheet.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be a good idea. Fuck yeah. That's a really good idea. I'm going to tell them right now.
I would, because I was just like, it's Friday the 13th. And I was like, shit, I always get a Friday the 13th tattoo, or try to. And I was like, oh, you guys should definitely do that.
Great idea. Oh my God. I love you for that idea, and I'm going to steal it.
Steal it. I try to have one, as I call them, one stupid idea I like to throw it at people. And there it was.
That's not a stupid idea. That idea kicks ass.
Well, tag me in the idea when and if it happens.
I will.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Get some Jets pizza. I think some of the guys got that, but definitely go get tacos after the show.
Hell yeah.
And hopefully the show goes as well as I would imagine it's going to. And hopefully some more touring will happen, and you'll come at least closer to where I'm at here in Grand Rapids in the next year or less.
Hopefully.
Enjoy the rest of your day, my guy.
Hell yeah. Thank you, dude. Appreciate you.
So that was my conversation with Jack. I want to thank him once again for spending a little bit more time in the van than he probably wanted to after being in the van to get to the venue for the show. But much appreciated, and hopefully he went and grabbed some tacos from that spot. It's a spot that I did not see coming. My wife and I, like I said in the chat, had walked by randomly after seeing 18 Visions play the same venue that they were playing at. Food smelled great. It was the only thing open, and ironically, it was really fucking good. And then I have since taken some friends there the last time we were there. So if you're over at the Sanctuary, go look for the taco spot around the corner. You will not be disappointed. I promise you that. And I mean, who doesn't love a great taco after a hardcore show anyway? Metal show, whatever show. A show. Doesn't matter what kind of show. Tacos are always great. You don't even need to go to a show. Tacos are great. Tacos are always there for you. Anyway, I was really intrigued and hoping that the Flash idea for the release of people watching was going to be a thing. I kept waiting and looking at socials, waiting for that to maybe be a thing, but it did not look like it happened. So unfortunately, the idea kind of went to waste. But it was really interesting to watch Jack's reaction, like the gears turning, especially if you were watching the video version, to watch Jack's gears turning. Like I could just literally see him coming up with a bunch of ideas. So I really was hoping it was going to come to fruition, but maybe for another time down the road. And speaking of down the road, let's get this episode wrapped up and get you guys on your way to whatever it is you are about to embark on after listening to this episode. If you would like to keep up with 156 Silence, it's real simple. They have a link tree on all of their socials. It's literally in the show notes on whatever you are listening to this on. But if you would like me to spell it out for you, Facebook, 156 Silence, Instagram, 156 Silence, Twitter, 156 Silence. If you'd like to keep up with Jack, you can find him on Instagram at Jack from 156 and peep some of the latest photos of him rocking the Pit Vipers while wearing the the hot dog costume from I Think You Should Leave. That was a good Halloween costume look for him. And if you would like to keep up with the podcast, simple enough, Speak Pod on all your major social media platforms. And if you can rate, review, subscribe, you know why that's important. Everyone talks about it. Please do such. If you'd like to keep up with me, you can also email me at brewtallyspeaking@gmail.com with guest suggestions, show ideas on how to be better. I've been getting some of those on Instagram anyway, but feel free to email me. I'll try to reply as quickly as I can. It's been great to have everybody hopping in on all like the Instagram lives I do while I'm uploading the new episodes and such to keep me company and keep me busy while I'm literally doing nothing. But while you're doing nothing, what you could do is you could actually go to rockabilia.com. They have thousands and thousands of items in their online store. You already know this. What you also know is that you can save money by using our code BREWtally at checkout. Take 10% off your total purchase order. The holidays are coming. Get something for someone you love or yourself. Save that money and let them know that I sent you. It's a win-win for everybody. And on that note, that is this week's episode of the Brewtally Speaking podcast. I am John. I will see you all next week. Enjoy the rest of yours.